So today we're diving into something really cool. It's this powerful, imagined dialogue between a pretty cynical teenager and a divine voice. And what it does is it takes on all the biggest questions, creation, free will, good versus evil, and just flips them on their head. It's got a surprisingly modern take, so let's get right into it. All right, so the whole thing kicks off with this one single line from the storyteller. It sounds familiar, right? In the beginning. But listen to that twist, a lonesome creator. So right away, the creator isn't framed as all-powerful, but as, well, lonely, maybe even a little needy. And that one single idea sparks this entire point-by-point debate of a very, very old story. Okay, so first up, let's try and get inside the storyteller's head, right? His version of God is basically a cosmic CEO. The universe isn't some grand mystery. It's a business that runs on rewards, on control, and on brand loyalty. It's a really skeptical, kind of jaded point of view, but let's be honest, it probably feels familiar to a lot of us. So the storyteller's first big claim is that creation is just a transaction. You worship me, I give you paradise. It's like a cosmic loyalty program. But look at the divine response. It just completely shoots that down. The whole idea of trading worship for a reward is dismissed as nothing more than a cheap bribe, something that totally misses the point of what existence is all about. And that cynical take just keeps on going. The storyteller says, "Let there be light" wasn't some profound act of creation. It was just so God could get a better look at his new fan club. But the divine voice completely reframes it. Light isn't a spotlight for an audience. It's the fuel for a workshop. It's the energy source for a divine art studio where souls are supposed to experiment and build and create. In the storyteller's version, God is kind of petty, right? Exclusive. Only cares about his inner circle of admirers. But the response to this is one of the most powerful ideas in the whole dialogue. It says if you don't align with a creative vision, you're not punished by God. You don't get ignored. You simply have to live in the world that your vision creates. This just completely shifts the burden from some divine judgment to our own human responsibility. And, this whole idea of human responsibility, that's a huge turning point in the conversation. It moves us away from that cynical, transactional view and introduces the Divine Father's alternative, a partnership. This isn't about a king and his subjects anymore. It's about a collaboration, one where humanity is expected to grow up and take on a much, much bigger role. All right, so here's a big one. Why is God hidden? The storyteller says it's basically a marketing trick, to create mystery. But the divine perspective argues it's not about hiding at all. It's about our ability to perceive. The presence is everywhere, but to actually see it, you have to develop a mystic sense. It's almost like learning to tune into a different frequency. It's a skill you can develop, not a secret being kept from you. The storyteller sees knowledge as a tool for control, with God holding all the important cards. But the divine view just completely flips that script. The goal isn't control through secrecy, it's empowerment through total truth. The whole idea is that with full access to knowledge, humanity can actually evolve into something more, something godlike. And this is where the language gets really interesting. The storyteller uses that loaded word, slaves, which just carries so much weight. The divine response doesn't just disagree, it completely upends that power dynamic. The goal isn't followers or servants, it's trustworthy executive directors. I mean, wow, people who are capable of co-managing the universe. And all of this kind of builds up to this central idea of humanity as apprentice souls. Just think about that for a second. We're not finished products, we're trainees, learning how to handle immense creative and spiritual power. And just like any apprenticeship, the training has real stakes. It means we're vulnerable, we can be tricked, we can make mistakes that lead us down a really destructive path. So if we're apprentices, right, that brings us to maybe the most important theme of this whole dialogue, the massive, massive weight of our own choices. If we are co-creators, then we are also co-responsible for the state of the world, for all of its beauty and for all of its brokenness. And that takes us right back to this line, which honestly might be the single most important quote in the entire dialogue. It's a radical statement of accountability. It's suggesting that the suffering and injustice we see in the world, it's not some divine punishment. It's the direct, natural result of our collective choices being out of sync with a creative, life-affirming vision. And that naturally leads the storyteller to ask this, and it's a pretty haunting question if you think about it. What if hell isn't some place you go after you die, but a destructive pattern you create and live inside of, right here, right now? a self-perpetuating cycle built from millions and millions of small, cruel, or just apathetic choices. Okay, so if we're the ones building these negative patterns, how does that even work? Well, the last part of this dialogue gives us this really powerful, kind of unsettling metaphor for how evil actually persists and draws its strength from us. See, in this story, the fallen, what we might call evil, isn't this big, all-powerful, independent force. It's described as something more like a parasite. It has no power of its own. It can only survive on what we choose to feed it. The text is super clear about this. These forces will literally starve and fade away if we just cut off their food supply. And we're not talking about some supervillain stuff here. The way we feed this thing is through all the small, everyday moments. It's spreading gossip. It's laughing at a cruel joke. It's adding to a hateful pile-on online. It's choosing to look the other way when someone needs help. These are the mundane, everyday choices that together give power to the darkness. And that, right there, is the crucial point. If darkness is fed by our choices, it can also be starved by them. That means every single decision to choose kindness, to show a little empathy, to act with courage, that isn't just a small personal act. In this way of thinking, it's an act of cosmic significance. You are actively defunding the forces of negativity. So, in the end, we're left with the storyteller's final question. This whole dialogue puts all the power and all the responsibility right back in our hands. It's not about waiting for some divine intervention to come and fix things. It's a challenge to imagine the world we could actually build if all of us collectively decided to starve the shadows and feed the light. It really makes you wonder, what would that world even look like?